today's video, is it time to start a bulk? Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com. In today's video, we're going to address the age-old question is, when is it time to cut and when is it time to bulk? I get a lot of questions regarding, am I lean enough to bulk? Have I put on enough muscle to cut? And I got to tell you guys, I've been in the gym for 30 years and that question never stops, right? Because as someone who's interested in improving their physique, i.e. more muscle, less body fat over time, it's something that we're constantly working on. The target is constantly changing. So I got a great question today from a viewer who has some very specific information about their physique. And I think a lot of this is going to pertain to those of you who are going through this process, trying to figure out when is the time to bulk. We're going to define what a bulk is. We're going to define a couple different options for you and a couple different scenarios for how that's going to play out. I'm 20 and I've been lifting for a few years consistently. Used to be a bigger kid, 25 to 30% body fat, 6 foot, 240 pounds back then. Now down to 195 at 14 to 15% body fat with some visible abs, some striations in the chest and shoulders. I've been cutting forever. I wanted to get to 10% before starting my bulk. Not sure if I've made up my mind. I would love to bulk now and gain even more muscle, but I'm not sure if I should start at 14, 15% or diet down to get to 10% before starting a bulk. So let's define what a bulk is. Okay, historically, when I got into this sport of putting on muscle, the idea of a bulk was that you basically overconsume calories, probably really focusing on just going to the gym, putting on as much muscle as you can, even if it means you put on a lot of body fat. The idea there is that adding muscle is a process that is very demanding on the body, and thus we must eat a lot, right? Eat big to get big. That was the phrase when I was growing up, and it was very common. And I certainly went through my share of bulking phases. Now, after I've been doing this for more than 3 decades, I started lifting weights when I was 17, guys. I'm 48 now. Really what I've come to find out is there's a lot of different ways to handle this process. So if you're happy at 14 to 15% body fat and you don't want to be 20% body fat, there's really no reason to bulk. And let me explain why. Adding muscle is not about over-consuming calories to a high degree. While the scale will go up, which for us as young men, especially me, I was 6'3", 160 pounds when I graduated high school. The idea of bulking to me was very exciting because I was so obsessed with the scale going up, okay? So the idea for me was, at that time, yeah, I want to see 170, 180, 190, 200 pounds when I started lifting weights. And I'll say, over-consuming calories for someone who is not really too technically proficient at tracking calories just makes it easy, because when you are in a heavy caloric surplus, it's going to be very likely that you're hitting your protein minimums, your carb minimums, your fat minimums. Your performance in the gym is going to be very good. Also, as a young man, honestly, you really can do no wrong. If you're eating plenty of food, lifting heavy, and you're a young man, you're going to see a lot of progress in the gym. Now, what does that progress look like? While I was excited to see the weights go up, right? I mean, I remember going in the gym and, barbell curl. Every week or two, I was putting on another 5-pound plate. Bench press. Every week or two, I was putting another 5 or 10 pounds on. Every movement that I was putting a lot of frequency and effort into, it was increasing. And I think at that time, I was so excited about the bulk for that reason. However, now I look back at that time and I realize a few key things. First, building muscle naturally is a pretty slow process. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get strong quick. What I have found is that your increase in strength, especially when you start lifting, is going to outpace your increase in muscle tissue, because the two things are different. Your strength is highly neural, right? Meaning it's a skill. It's like playing any other sport. It's like swinging a golf club, hitting a baseball. They're skills, and you're going to improve your skill set, become more efficient. So you may actually get stronger before you start to notice noticeable gains. Putting on muscle is a product of consistent training week after week, month after month, and year after year, where you're just adding these micrograms of lean body mass of muscle on top of the muscle that you've already had. You can't really speed that process up by bulking. What you essentially do by bulking is you give yourself the illusion that, hey, I have seen 20 pounds increase on the scale. I have added 20 pounds of muscle. What I find is that for us natural lifters, when we diet back down, we still come down to a very similar body weight. We just have a lot more muscle and our body composition looks completely different. So does that mean I think you shouldn't bulk? No. I think it's a great idea for some people. In fact, if I go back through my history of this, had I never bulked up to say 250 pounds and dieted back down to realize that, well, was it worth it? Even after 15 years of lifting, I put on 30, 40 pounds trying to bulk. I came back to a relatively very similar weight. Now, I did add some muscle, but could I have added that same amount of muscle without the 30 or 40 pounds of body fat, which then had to be dieted off? Meanwhile, when you diet, you risk muscle loss. In my mind, the most optimal way, the best way to approach it would be to be consistent, okay? I've got some friends that are much more dedicated than myself at the diet, at the nutrition, and they don't go through bulking and cutting phases. They are just constantly in a main gaining phase where they are maintaining their body composition, putting on muscle throughout the years, and over time, their calories might gradually increase, their performance in the gym gradually increases, but you don't see these big ups and downs. And that's where I've reached a point in my life, okay, guys? I'm no longer in my 20s, even in my 30s when I was going out drinking, missing meals, missing workouts, where I would have these intense periods of 12 to 16 weeks where I would be so focused, and then I would have, another few months where I might miss a few workouts, might not pay attention to my diet as much. So these bulking and cutting phases were more about my attention to detail. If you're someone who really wants to live this lifestyle, and there's a few guys out there, I would just suggest that you focus on staying around this 14 to 15% body fat, which is more than enough body fat for you to be successful adding muscle. Getting down to 10, 8, 7% body fat, those areas, it can become quite difficult to maintain that lean and also add muscle, just because you're going to have potentially some issues with hormones, also some potential injury situations because you are quite a bit leaner. I also think some of your leverages get a little bit troublesome when you're that lean. Everybody's a little bit different, but I promise you, if you're in that 12 to 15% body fat range, to me, that is the sweet spot for men. You said you can see abs a few days a week. You can see some chest and shoulder striations. Chest and shoulders are typically going to show muscle because, guys, we like to work those body parts. Any body part that has more muscle, even if you've got a little bit of fat, you're going to be able to see some shape, even if you're not at that 10% body fat. So when is it a time to bulk? It's probably a time to bulk when you're a little bit insecure about your weight, okay? And that doesn't seem to be an issue with you. You're already around that 200-pound mark. I would focus more on the consistency in the gym. That is what builds the muscle. However, I can't speak for everybody on this. I can't say what's right and wrong for you. These are decisions you have to make. Likewise, when someone asks me, am I lean enough to start bulking? That is a very personal decision, okay? This is why I love competing. If you haven't attended a bodybuilding competition, I would highly suggest it. If you're someone that is very, very into fitness, bodybuilding competition gives you that reason to hit your diet, hit your training, you diet down, you see what your physique looks like at low body fat levels, you get that immediate satisfaction, you get to see your physique shredded, which actually shows you how much muscle you have. Then you can spend time, a year, 2 years, 3 years. I usually take 2 to 3, sometimes 4 years between competitions because I like to see the differences in my physique from year to year. My first competition, 2008, my most recent competition, 2023. That's right, guys. I've been doing this for a long time. I love the sport. I don't plan on stopping. It's a lifestyle for me. So at 48 years old, I have no interest in being bulked up at 20% body fat. I like staying right around here, around this 12% mark. I can easily diet down and get lean enough if I want to take a really cool thumbnail for you guys, but I'm also really enjoying my performance and my flexibility. I've added some alcohol back in my lifestyle. I'm traveling, I'm enjoying food, I'm eating out. I'm not being as diligent as I was last year when I dieted, but my routine is the same. I still eat the same breakfast. I still make sure I get to the gym. I'm still hitting my protein goals. That's allowed me to continue to build muscle even at a leaner body place because I'm so consistent. So for you, it comes down to, what do you want?
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? Damn it. What do you want?
Would you be happy at 20% body fat? Then go for it, okay? Or are you happy at 14 to 15% body fat and building muscle from there? Because I promise you, building muscle isn't going to be improved by having to strip body fat off constantly. It is a slow process. It is something that happens where you almost don't notice it, especially if you've been training. If you're intermediate to advanced, you're not going to really see noticeable differences in your physique from week to week, month to month. It's more like year to year. And that's really where the value comes in, guys. This is something that you can do for the rest of your life. The best natural bodybuilders are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Why? Because nothing can replace the repetitions in the gym. Nothing can put more tissue on your body than being consistent over a long period of time, okay? So the best bodybuilders, the best natural bodybuilders, the best physiques that we see are gonna be guys, girls like myself that have been training for 30 years. This muscle is not going anywhere. It's just a part of me, and it's only gonna continue to get better. All right, guys, hopefully that answers your questions. Hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.